Hello and welcome to Video Revealed. I'm Colin Smith and welcome to your video editing bootcamp. You're here because you need to learn how to edit a video in Adobe Premiere Pro, and that's what we're going to cover here in 11 separate parts. This is for beginners. I'm going to have chapters down at the bottom, and I'll have detailed links show up here with deeper tutorials. So anytime there's something where I have more information like color or effects or masking or something like that, that will pop up. This is meant to give you everything you need to create your video. If you're a beginner, this is everything you need to know. So take a deep breath, go get a cup of coffee. I'm going to hold your hand through the whole thing. We're going to cover 11 separate parts, including file setup and media management, user interface and customization, media import and organization, editing skills, markers and transitions, audio, effects and masking, color, titles and graphics, exporting, and then some troubleshooting tips at the end. You're going to be fine. Take a deep breath. I've got you covered. Let's get started with part one. If you're coming to video editing from a phone, if a phone is the first piece of technology you've learned, then the most difficult thing to understand is media management. On a phone, especially on an iPhone, you don't manage any media. It just does it in the background. Here, you're responsible for managing your media, and this is the number one thing you need to learn and do every single time you start a project. If you don't, you're going to pay the price. I get comments every single week where people think they've lost their media. They haven't. They just don't know where the heck it is. You're responsible for managing your media, and that way you'll feel more confident that if something comes up, you'll know where your media is. So let's talk about your computer very basically. And I got tutorials. Here's one of those detailed tutorials about working with computers that are a little bit slower. Just because you want to edit a video doesn't mean your slow computer is going to be fast. If you're trying to push things, if you're editing 4K video, proxies, here's another one. You can go use proxies instead of that. You can only use the power of your system that it has available. If this is a really cheap Ultrabook, you're going to be able to edit maybe HD. That's about it, with not a lot of effects. It has to be a 64-bit operating system, both Mac and Windows. The Mercury playback engine can run in software or in hardware. If you have a graphics processing unit, this is a GPU card in your computer, and it's either NVIDIA or AMD or Intel. If it has a minimum of 2 gigabytes of memory, you're going to play things better in Premiere Pro. If it doesn't mean you can't output a video, it just means you need to set your expectations. Things might be slower. Next up is disk speed. And if you don't have enough room on your computer, you can use external drives. And there are tons of external drives. These guys here, this is a My Passport Western Digital. This is a giant drive, tons of room on it. It's inexpensive, but it's really slow. It spins at 5,400 revolutions per minute, RPM. 5,400 RPM. Don't edit on this. You can back up on this. This is a 7,200 RPM drive. This is the minimum that you will need. Now, maybe your computer has a 5,400 RPM drive in it. That might be a little tough to edit. Again, you're going to have to have a lot of patience. If it's a 7,200 RPM drive, great. If it's an SSD, great. If it's an SSD in your computer, great. It's going to be fast. If you're connecting these, connect them through USB 3 as a minimum or Thunderbolt. So that's your computer. Next up is your media. You've finished shooting. Now you need to do something with your media. And this is a place where a lot of people get screwed up. They think that their media imports from here into Premiere Pro just by bringing it into Premiere Pro. It doesn't. You need to copy this media at least onto your computer. If this is a really important job, if this is a paying job, then you should be backing it up in at least another place. So here's the card. I just recorded a few things quickly on my camera just so I would have something to move. I'm going to insert this in my computer, and I'm going to show you the crazy folder structure that this card has. So the card comes up here. And by the way, I'm using something called Videoeditor File Manager, and I'll have a link to this. If you're a Mac user, you're probably used to this. I prefer this layout. So here's the card. The card, you don't even see the videos. You see these folders. So if you click on this one, you'll see another folder, another folder, another folder, a freaking other folder, and then finally we get to see the clips. So that's how deep this folder is. That's the way camera-based cards record. Most of them do. Some will record an MP4, and that's great. This isn't a bad thing. This is just something you need to be used to. If you're backing this up, you need to take this whole AVC HD folder and copy it. Don't just go to the clips and move them, because there's lots of other extra information in there. You're going to screw things up if you peek inside and just grab the video files. You need to move the whole folder over, or you can convert these files. I'm going to show you that really quick. So I'm going to launch Media Encoder, and this is part of Premiere Pro. This is like the rendering engine inside Premiere Pro. You can export out of Premiere Pro by itself, or you can send it to Media Encoder, which we'll get to later. But I want to show you how smart Adobe technology is if you use the right methods. So you'll see here, there's our camera card. There's the same folders. And watch that. Remember when I opened the other one, I had all of these folders, but Media Encoder sees the clips right away. That's because Premiere Pro and Media Encoder understand the card-based folder structure, and it just hides it for you if you use the media browser and not import. So we're going to import this stuff in step 2, but right now I want to show you this media management. This is stuff you do have to know. So you can convert these if you want. You can drag them over to here. You can have them as separate files, or you could even stitch them together if you want. Now I don't want to stitch them together. I want them separate. But this way you can create new files that is just a single file. And here you could create like a YouTube HD format, or you could create something of a higher quality like QuickTime 422. Again, we'll cover export and formats later. The important thing here is that converting to a better format doesn't make your video any better. So if you shot in AVC HD, which is a very compressed format, and QuickTime is less compressed, it doesn't mean your video will look better. It might play smoother in your computer, but it also might be quite a bit larger. Like we're talking 5 to 10 times size in the file size that it takes up. So I just wanted to show you, you can convert that giant structure to clips if you want. I'm just going to close Media Encoder and not update those. So again, I would take that whole folder and copy that and then paste it somewhere. Where? Create a project folder for every single thing, and don't put stuff on your desktop. Don't. You're only going to cause problems if you do. If you have 2 hard drives like I do in this computer, then obviously put it on your second drive. If you don't, then at least create a projects folder or a media folder, or maybe the name of your company on your main drive. So this is my home drive here. And I'll create a new folder here. And there it is. And I'll call this My Projects. And inside there, I'll create a new folder for that project. So for this new project, I'll call this My Show. And this is where I would paste in my media. Now, you could create a media folder in here. That does make sense. So create a new folder and I'll call this video. I'll also create another folder in here, and I'll call it audio. Another folder in here, sound effects, images, logos. All right, so now I have folders sitting here and they're empty. This is where I would copy that folder into here. Now I'm not going to use these files. I've got different files that I'm going to use. So I'm going to start copying those into this folder. So you can see I've set things up similarly over here. And I have converted this particular file to QuickTime. So just to show you the difference in file size, this is 1 gigabyte at 4K with H.264. The HD is 14 gigabytes in size. So imagine I'm copying this from my card. I'm copying this from my hard drive to hard drive. But this is what you need to do. Now start moving stuff to that project folder. And again, it could be on a fast external drive, as long as it is fast and it's connected by USB 3. And don't plug it into a USB 2 port. It should be a USB 3 port. Again, there's my tutorial on working with your computer and making sure things are fast. Now, one thing I'll do, because I realized I have a video folder and that's a little bit too generic. Instead, I want to have an interview folder and I want to have a B-roll folder. What is B-roll? Well, B is secondary footage. The main interview here, or if this was the person talking on camera. So this is my A roll and that's my B roll when I go to my screen. So the same kind of thing. B roll is great for you to add in and cut away. Okay, so I'm going to put the interview in there and I'll create a new folder in the video folder and let's just call that B-roll. And for that, I've got some video over here, B-roll, and I'll select that, copy that, and I'll paste that in there. All right. So here's my B-roll. There's my interview. Now let's grab the logo. And then there's a whole bunch of images in here. All right. So I think that's and I've got some music. And I'll copy that. So let me create a new folder for that. Music. And I'll paste that in there. All the folders that I'm creating on my computer will show up in Premiere Pro when I import them. Except for blank folders. If they're empty, they won't show up. But all of the structure in here will show up. All the stuff that's in here. And I don't have my sound effects in here, but I think you get the idea. I would normally place them in there. Okay. So let's close this up and look at our whole project. So there's the show. There's each one of the folders. I guess I could have put my music in the audio. So my music and audio, images, logo, sound effects if I had them, video with B-roll, and interview. Okay. the next time I create a project, I would create a new folder here and do the same thing. A lot of people will create the folder structure and just leave it as a blank folder, copy that folder and paste it in. Kind of like a template idea, so it's always the same. All right, now that you have your stuff organized on your computer, and I would back this up, if this was a paying job, that whole My folder would now be going to another drive. Like I said, something like these drives, or they're really inexpensive drives, like $50 to $80 with multiple terabytes that you can back things up. Okay, so that is, I think that's everything in step one, backup and media management. All right, we're now going to look at the interface and customization. The most critical thing to understand is the files you just copied and moved over, at no time will they ever go inside Premiere Pro. A lot of people think importing means you take a file, you copy it, and you put it inside Premiere Pro. You don't. They're links. Everything is linked to the original media. If the original media is moved, then you will have a broken link showing as missing media. Everything is linked, and you can see that when you open up Premiere Pro if you've created other files. Here's some other files that I've been working on. A lot of people think that this is a file. It's not, it's a link. Word does this, Photoshop does this. These are just recent documents you've worked on. If you happen to, at the end, I'll show you some troubleshooting tips, clear the cache, and this list is blank. A lot of people think if it's blank here, then Premiere Pro deleted my media. Premiere Pro does not delete the media. You know how you know? Because you went to all the trouble to make those folders, so you immediately go to those folders and then you see them and you know all your stuff is still there. It's the people that came from a phone that didn't manage media that see this blank and they think everything is gone. It's not gone. Premiere Pro does not delete your media. Go find it where you put it in your projects folder. See how you're building up that confidence? Oh yeah, hey Premiere Pro, you don't know where it is? I know where it is. Okay, so this is the first screen you get. You have your recent projects, you can create a new project, or you can open something that isn't in this recent list. The recent list is just the last, I don't know, over 10 or 12 recent files. So let's create a new project in the upper left. So click New Project, and you'll get a dialog box asking you where that project is. Well, we need to find that project, so I'll browse, and I put it in my home directory, and I called it My Projects. There it is. There it is. So I'm opening up the My Projects folder and the My Show folder. And what you can do is, I do this all the time, is I'll select the My Show, select that, and copy that, and then open that up, because I don't want my project to be in My Projects. I want it to be in My Show. Those are the folders that we created before, and I'm creating a new project file there. So remember, I copied that, so I'll paste it. So let's just look at these top two areas. The name of the show is My Show. It can be anything you want. And the location is in the My Projects My Show folder. So you could name this My Show 2, 3, 4, whatever. Next up is the rendering. And I talked about this at the beginning about a GPU. I have a RTX 5000 in here, and that's the one I'm going to use. That's the default. If you're on Apple, then you might see Metal as an option in here. If you've got a powerful GPU, use that. Premiere Pro does a good job of anticipating that and selecting that. If you get an error that the driver doesn't work, you have two options. Update the driver, which you can do on the Windows side. On the Mac side, you just have to wait for Apple. Or just disregard the warning. It doesn't mean Premiere Pro is broken. It just means it can't use your GPU because it's either an old version of a driver that isn't compatible, or it's just such a slow card, it makes no difference. For that, you can